And our history bit is going to be concerning the paganism of December 25th. As you know, right now, since we have crossed over into the month of November on the Gregorian calendar, the solar calendar, which is what the world uses, that many have shifted from the Day of the Dead Halloween celebration that occurred last weekend and have focused their attention on the winter holidays, commonly called Christmas by most of the world. And so there are decorations that are being put up already that are being put up. I happen to see some things around the community, and the minds of the world are shifting, getting prepared for this celebration that has been practiced for over 6,000 years. You say, well, I thought Christmas had been celebrated for almost 2,000 years. No, this particular celebration and the manner in which it has been celebrated among all of the nations of the world has been celebrated for over 6,000 years. And so when we use terms such as paganism, it is a term that refers to the belief system and practices of the country dwellers who are not a part of the house of Israel. That's where the term pagan comes from. Literally, pagan means a country dweller. So it has to do with the indigenous, religious, idolatrous practices of other nations. And so when we look at the 25th of December, which in the age in which we are today, it is a very, very important day, a very marked day. It's a day of great importance all over the world. Have you ever thought about that? How significant it is all over the world. Because it is celebrated not only by people who call themselves Christians, but it is celebrated by people who could care less about the Messiah. Now, why is that the case? Does it make sense for someone to celebrate something that has an attachment to the Messiah? I'm just throwing the statement out just for thinking. No, it does not. And so in order for us to understand the reason why the 25th of December is so greatly regarded, we have to understand that this day is of significance because its origins predate the birth of the Hebrew Israelite Messiah. So I want to share some things from one of our lessons that we teach on paganism, where it deals with the pagan calendar. And the winter festivals of the three main festivals in paganism, because there are three main festivals, and there's a myriad of celebrations in paganism. myriad of them. But there are three major seasons where festivals are done. There is the winter, spring, and fall. We just come out of the fall season. That gives homage to the Lord of the Dead. It's commonly called the Day of the Dead. But this next one coming up in the winter season, the winter festivals surround themselves around what is commonly called winter solstice. And for those who are not familiar with winter solstice refers to the time in which the sun stops. Solstice means sun stops, or the sun stopping. Sol is Latin for sun. This means to stop, like static. So that occurs during a 3-day period from roughly the 21st or 22nd of December to the 25th of December. That's winter solstice. It highlights when the sun is at its shortest amount of shining in a day. In other words, that's the shortest day of the year. Now, for those who may have been to Alaska, such as my wife and myself, to see what it looks like there, in Alaska, you're able to really see the extreme because you only get maybe about, I think, 4 to 5 hours of daylight during that time of the year. So we really experience the shortest day of the year. So that's solstice. It stops on the 22nd, 21st, 22nd, and then 3 days later on the 25th, it begins to start to increase its sunlight. In other words, the days start to ever so slightly begin to get longer. It's a process that occurs in the cycle that the Almighty designed. But the pagans, because of their worship of the sun, and mind you, for those who are not familiar with paganism, the sun is the chief deity of all of the pagans, chief deity. So when we look in the scriptures and we see the scriptures talking about Baal and Ashtaroth, Baal is regarded as the son, S-O-N, son of that deity, and has been given homage for his birth. So during winter solstice, the celebration that occurs is the birthday of the sun deity. And I want to share some things to help inform us about the various nations and cultures that worship the sun deity. All of them worship their sun deity, catch this now, during the same time. They're all in different places, but during the same time of the year, they all worship the same deity, although they may have different names, depending on where you are, because they all came out of the Babylonian system, which was created, or I'll say reinstituted, by Nimrod in the Tower of Babel. That's where it all began. And with the confounding of the languages and the dispersion of the peoples, they took their same basic understanding of their idolatrous religion, but different names were applied to their deities. Now let me share. The winter festivals, December 19th, because there was preparation that was done during these festivals and these times. December 19th is regarded as return of the Sun Deity. This was the Druid festival of Albain Arthuan. This is in Europe, in those areas of the Germanic-speaking people, the Britons, in how they honored the Sun Deity. This is when they would begin. Then we have December 21st through December 25th, the old Egyptian festival of Isis. The Magna Martyr, she is called the mother of God, or the mother of the deity and mother of all, giving birth to the deity called Horus. Now, we just said something about the Celtic people, the Druids in Europe, time frame in which they would begin their celebration of the return of the sun deity. And also in Egypt, there was the mother, because Isis, in the Egyptian system, you have Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Horus was the son. Isis was the mother. During this time of the year is when the birth of the sun deity in paganism would take place. December 22nd is regarded as the beginning of winter solstice. December 24th is regarded as Celtic Tree Month. The month of Reed ends, and also the tree month of Elder begins. Now, why is this important to mention about Celtic Tree Month? For those who might not be familiar with the whole idea time of the year and it being decorated with candles and stars and balls and all of those things, all of that derived from the Celtic Druid practice of winter solstice, in which they called Yule. You want to mark that. Yule. Okay? That's where it comes from. Yule. And we're going to say something about what Yule is connected to. But Celtic Tree Month is December 24th, the beginning of it. On December 25th, there's also what's called the European Feast of Herne, Frey, Dionysius. All of these are the birth of the god, which is regarded as the light of the world in paganism. Because all of those names represent the sun deity. This is December 25th. This is all pre-Christian pagan practices. It's been happening for 6,000 years. December 25th through January the 5th. This is the time of the year, there again, in Europe still, and also in Scandinavia, of Norse Yule. Norse, it refers to the people that live in the Scandinavian, Norway areas, Norway, Sweden, you know, the place where the Vikings come from, that area. Norseland is what it was called at one particular point in time. But Norse Yule, and I just mentioned about Yule, right? The Old Norse festival honoring Freyja. Now, Freyja is Odin's wife of the Norse deities in their system. It honors Freyja, which is the deity of fertility, and the newborn Baldur. Now, what you need to understand, this Baldur comes from Baal, because all of these traditions and the names that you see are variations of what was going on in Mesopotamia among the Canaanites as well as the Babylonians. So it has to do with Freyja having the baby Baldur, which is called the god of light, with evergreens, fires, and feastings. So during this time when the Norse Yule celebration is occurring, they would cut down the evergreen trees and they would decorate them. Not only would they decorate them, but after they cut down the tree, they would drag a tree into the homes and they would burn the tree. And that was called the Yule Log. How many of y'all ever heard of the Yule Log? Mm-hmm. There's a Christmas carol that's sung that reflects the practice of this particular way in which they celebrated the winter festival. And the song is called Deck the Halls. How many of y'all ever heard that song? Deck the halls with it, right? Fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly. Fa la 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 la. Right? Right? Mm-hmm. There's a part of the song that says, see the burning Yule blazing. Fa la 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 la. What's the burning Yule? It's the Yule Log. Where does the Yule Log come from? This celebration. Because these ancient Norse and Celtic people, before the Messiah or his message came to those regions, this is what they were celebrating. What people call a Christmas tree, all of that came out of Europe from the Yule tide. That's where it came from, in particular. If you Google on your phones, Yule tree, just do this for me. Google Yule tree, and you will find a picture of an evergreen tree, decorated, garlands, candles, and a star on the top. You'll say, that's a Christmas tree. Well, to the ancient pagans, that's a Yule tree that they set up on December 25th. So the question is, how did these things become a part of what we call the Christian faith? They became a part of it because of the pagan mixing that was brought in when the message of Messiah came to these lands. The message was preached, but the ministers included the customs of the indigenous people into this new faith that they had. And instead of them doing as the Most High had said to the ancient Israelites, to remove every shrine, every temple, remove the names of these deities out of the land. Instead of them doing that, they just continued with the same custom and, as I would say, Christianized. But these are the pre-Christian, pagan, idolatrous origins that are associated with the 25th of December. And as I know that for those who have heard this information for the first time, it may put a wrench in their day, because they probably are wondering, so what you saying? You saying that we shouldn't celebrate this? What you saying? Well, what I am saying is simply that this is not something that is a part of our faith for those who claim Messiah. It is a pagan origin, and it is something that we as the people of Elohim should avoid. But I trust that this information has helped to bring enlightenment about the celebrations, about the season, because as we grow in our faith, as we come into a greater knowledge of the ancient Messianic Israelite faith, it is important that we understand the history of certain things that were adopted by those who came before us. And as we begin to become more informed, it is important that we begin to make decisions that are in alignment with what pleases the Most High. Well, the Almighty be praised.